In my life, I have been available to help presidents in every administration from Kennedy on. I have never talked about my private conversations with presidents, or whether they agreed with me or disagreed with me. But with respect to the war on terror, there have been some allegations made of what I recommend. Now, you can assume that what I say privately is not different from what I have written. And so anybody can go to the internet. I've written 9 articles on Iraq over the last years. And you can read for yourself what I think about it, and not accept the characterizations that journalists may make in their books and otherwise. I mean, I have a public record on many of these issues, and so you can determine for yourself what I'm likely to be saying.
Okay. Looking back on your lifetime, what are some key lessons you have learned about the nature and practice of diplomacy?
I would say these are all very good questions.
And there are more.
You know, when I read discussions on diplomacy, the argument is often made, why don't we just get people around the table and then they'll solve the problem. But that is not how diplomacy works. Because when people get around the table, there are several components. But they are influenced by their fundamental concepts. And so a diplomatic negotiation depends on a balance between incentives and penalties. When you tell a nation you want it to do something that it hasn't already done, you're trying to affect its calculations. Now, those calculations depend on its general national purpose. So I believe that the first thing you have to do when you want to negotiate is to get clear about what you're trying to achieve. The second is you have to understand what the other side is trying to achieve. What I always try to do in my negotiations, or in negotiations in which I was involved, is to begin the dialogue by telling the other side pretty precisely what I was aiming at, because that could then help it understand my specific proposals. And I invited them to tell me what they were aiming at. Then you have to see whether some consensus can emerge. But what you mustn't do is to talk yourself into the frame of mind that says, when there's a deadlock, you always have to make a new proposal. Because when you take that attitude, then the other side in a negotiation has every incentive to produce a deadlock, to see what the next compromise proposal is going to be. And there are sort of two attitudes towards negotiations. And I'm not saying which is better, I'm just telling you how one tends to approach it. You can either say, let's start with your maximum position, and then do it like slicing a salami. Make a little proposal and see what happens along the way. That's one approach. That's in fact what I would say the majority of negotiators do. The trouble with that approach is that the other side never knows when the end of the salami slice has happened, and they may keep waiting for the next slice. The other approach, which I prefer, is to get as clear as possible about what is a reasonable objective and on which you should want to settle. And to keep in mind that no international agreement will be kept if the other side doesn't have an interest in keeping it. So to put forward a maximum position is good for publicity, but it doesn't usually get you very far. So my view has always been to put forward as close to your final position right away, and just leave a little room for adjustments for the dignity of the other side. But that's a question of negotiating technique. And you'll probably find people at business schools who'll tell you the opposite is a better approach. But anyway, these are some of the lessons
Good.
that I would apply.
We'll close with a question about advice for young people who have an interest in the Foreign Service and a career in diplomacy. What guidance would you give them? What lessons?
Well, I think it's a tremendous career, and to represent your country towards the rest of the world is a great honor and a great challenge. In my view, the best preparation for it is to read as much history as you can, because, of course, history doesn't repeat itself exactly. But history it teaches not, you can't use it like a cookbook, but you can use it by analogy, by trying to discover what type of situation has happened before, and to learn as much as you can about the characteristics of other countries. Foreign service is a demanding career because not every post is agreeable. But those who manage to stay in, and once they get to the higher ranks, it is a great way to serve your country. And when you're Secretary of State, you have this problem with the Foreign Service. Foreign Service is a group of very able individuals, but they've been abroad a lot, and they've developed a certain amount of self-will. So many of them think that the Secretary of State probably couldn't have passed the Foreign Service exam. So if you overrule them, they think you haven't understood them. And they keep coming back at you in various variations. But if you're strong, they're a terrific group, and they perform great service. And I always urge young people who have that inclination that it's a very fulfilling career. Thank you very much.